All right, we are live here on a Tuesday night. Usually we say we're live here on a Wednesday night, but this is a Tuesday night. We had to move things around on account of the Backyard Brawl. Game being on Saturday. Good Lord, I'm losing my mind. Can this game get here? We're less than 48 hours away from the Backyard Brawl, 46 and a half, I think it is, until that thing kicks off on Thursday night. Thursday at Acrisure Stadium. Pitt, West Virginia. It's been building for a long time. In a way, I mean, this game's been 11 years coming, right? Since the last Backyard Brawl. It has been however many years since they announced the Backyard Brawl was coming back. I think, did Scott Barnes do that? Or maybe Heather Lake. I forget who got that on the schedule. That's been a long time coming. And it's been 8 months coming since the last Pitt football game. So you're really going, it's been a long time coming. And it's funny, I was thinking about this, we're looking forward to this game, I think because it's a renewal of the Brawl, because it's Pitt and West Virginia playing again. But we're also looking forward to this season as a whole. And I don't even know which one the anticipation's greater for right now. I mean, I think the season as a whole is going to ultimately be the thing that people talk about and remember and reflect on. But this game right now, it seems like everything in the world is centered around this game. I don't know about you. I haven't really thought about much else in the last few days. And every day as it gets closer and closer, the anticipation grows. Pitt sent out an email today about how the fan procedures and what to expect at the game and how traffic's going to be really bad and the parking lots are going to open at 2:00 and all this stuff. And just thinking about some of the details of a game day, some of the minutia of a game day, when the band takes the field and when this happens or that happens. It's exciting. It's exciting to have football coming back. It's exciting to be on the precipice of a season like this, of what this season could be. And it's exciting that the game we're going to all come back to is the Backyard Brawl. It's Pitt versus West Virginia. And that's a lot to look forward to. It's exciting to look forward to, and I think we're all pretty pumped about it. So we had to move this show. Usually we do it on Wednesday nights at 8:30 p.m. right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We moved it back a day to Tuesday night, just to put a little space between the show and the game. Didn't want to do a show on the eve of the game, the night before the game. Want to have a little space, so the show could sort of live on our YouTube channel for a couple days. But of course, if you are new around here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, it's we put out a lot of video content. And last week we started with our daily show, our new Monday through Friday daily show, The Morning Pit. Every morning we release an episode, and it could be 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it takes to talk about that day's Pitt news and that day's relevant information. And it's been a lot of fun. We're into week 2 of it so far, and gotten a great response, and we really appreciate it. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of those episodes, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and you'll know when we put up new videos every morning with the Morning Pit. You'll know when we go live for a live stream. Maybe you missed me talking about or tweeting about the fact that we were moving this week's show from Wednesday to Tuesday. If you missed it, then by subscribing to the YouTube channel, you're going to get a notification. You're going to know that we go live. So make sure you hit that button. I think it's on the screen during the live stream. It's definitely on the screen afterward. But either way, you came here through youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Subscribe to that. That would be awesome. Also, like this video. We always say that that helps with YouTube and the algorithms and trying to get more exposure, get it out there for more people. And that's exciting and that's fun. We want to get a bigger audience. We want more people to watch so we can keep growing this thing, because I'm having a lot of fun doing it. Both these live streams and the daily show, the daily Morning Pit show. And so the more the merrier. The more people who watch it, the more fun it will be. We got a lot of people already rolling in on the live stream tonight. That is always fun. If you want to join the conversation, and a lot of people already have, you can post your comments and your questions right there in the chat screen. We will read and respond to as many comments as we can, and we'll answer as many questions as we can. If you want to make sure that your comment gets read or your question gets answered, you click that little $ sign down at the bottom to become a super chatter. kick a couple bucks to the podcast. We very much appreciate that. We'll make sure we read your comment or your question on the show. We'll make sure we get to it. We've got a bunch of people who already jumped in with it. And so we might even just jump to those first, get to those super chatters right off the bat. Give me 1 second, though. Sorry, we had some ambient noise here in the background of the Panther-Lair Show. I apologize for that. I had to make sure that it wasn't going to, crash our party here. And so I imagine we're going to see a couple people make comments about that in a few minutes once you see that I had to take a quick run away. But I want to jump in here, get started right off the bat with some super chatters. RJ Seaman38 is one of our regulars, and we appreciate him, and says, this season is the legacy maker for Pat Narduzzi. He wins 10 games. He'll be mentioned in the top 5 coaches at Pitt. His legacy starts with 2 consecutive 10-win seasons. Paul Moore responds and says, I think he already cemented his legacy at Pitt. ACC champs. And RJ Seaman38 says, that's catching lightning in a bottle. It's an interesting conversation. RJ Seaman38 talking about, Pat Narduzzi potentially cementing his legacy, or what he could potentially do. And I'm not, like, me personally, I'm not getting that far ahead of myself. Like, I'm looking at this game right here, because as confident as I am about this Pitt team, as optimistic as I am about this Pitt team, as much as I think this Pitt team is built to win a lot and have a very successful season, another very successful season, and build on the success of last year, despite some of the personnel losses that they've gone through. As bullish as I am on this Pitt team, and you can see it anywhere I've been asked of a season prediction, and I've written it down a bunch of different places. I've said it on podcasts and interviews and all this stuff. I think this is a 10-win team. I think this is a team that'll go 10-2 in the regular season. That's what I predict the regular season record to be, 10-2. So I'm on the record of saying that. So obviously, I like this team's chances to do well this year. I like this team's chances to have success. But for all of that, like, with all of that being said, there are still question marks. And there are still ways, and we've talked about this at different points over the course of August, there are still ways that things could go sideways. And the biggest one, and the one that stands out the most, the biggest question mark, is Kedon Slovis. This is a quarterback. You're taking over for a Heisman Trophy finalist who was the catalyst for the success Pitt had last year. Those are big shoes to fill. And you don't have to be Kenny Pickett. I don't think you have to be Kenny Pickett to get this team to 10 wins, but it would help. It would help if you're something close to that. It would help if you can perform at something close to that level. Now, we're not talking about a complete wild card here. We're not talking about a complete unknown. This is a guy who's attempted more than 900 passes in his career. He's thrown nearly 60 touchdowns. He's the all-time Pac-12 leader in career completion percentage for quarterbacks with more than 875 pass attempts. He's 13th in NCAA history. I keep reciting these stats because I just can't get over it. This is like historic stats. He's 13th. Kedon Slovis is 13th in NCAA history in career pass completion percentage. So he's been around the block. He's played at the Power 5 level. He's had success at the Power 5 level. He has accomplished, he has impressive accomplishments, I guess is the way I would say it, at the Power 5 level. So he's not coming in completely green. He's not a high school recruit. He's not a transfer who couldn't win the job at 2 other places. He's coming in with a unique set of circumstances, but a whole lot on his resume and a whole lot in his history. And there was some health issues last year. He had some injury problems. There's no question about that. And you watch out for that. You want to make sure he's 100% recovered, which it seems that he is. And you want him to avoid any injuries this year, obviously. There isn't a team in the country that's going into the season saying something other than, you got to avoid injuries to the quarterback. Everybody has to avoid injuries to the quarterback. That's part of it. And that's one of the wild cards that, could potentially lead to this team winning less than 10 games. But as they're constructed, I'm bullish on them. But that guy right there, and you see him in the picture, Kedon Slovis, he's got to play well. He's got to play better than well. He's got to be good to great. And I think he's capable of that. I think he's got the skill players to throw to and hand off to. I think he's got the offensive line to protect him. And I think he's got a defense that can give him a cushion if he needs a cushion. I think a lot of the pieces are in place for this team, but we still need to see it all come together. I think even after the UMass game last year, or after the Tennessee game, I don't know what our expectations really were, and that was 2 games into the season. We're not even 1 game into the season. And we're sitting here talking about what Pat Narduzzi can do with his legacy. Yeah, if you want to go down the hypothetical road of if Pitt wins another ACC championship and they go 10-2, or they get to they go 10-2 and get to the ACC championship game again, or even if they just win 10 games and it just so happens that their losses are the worst possible losses, they go 7-1 in the ACC and their one loss is to Miami, who was 8-0, something extreme like that. Would that cement a legacy for Pat Narduzzi? To some extent, yeah, I think so. And you're going to put him in top 5 Pitt coaches of all time, or top 4, whatever, Mount Rushmore, or any of those kind of, I don't know. That's a conversation that I can't even have right now because I haven't thought in those terms. I mean, for me, we're 3.5 months away from that conversation. 3 months away from that conversation. Ask me when we're doing the post-game show after the Miami game. And then we'll talk about legacies and all that. Now, Pat Narduzzi has established himself, I think, as one of the better coaches in Pitt history, for his longevity, for some of the successes he's had in the individual wins with the Miami and the Clemson, and then, ultimately some of the sort of higher level, more tangible accomplishments, winning the Coastal Division twice, winning the ACC once, getting to a New Year's Six Bowl. And some people might, if this season doesn't go as planned or as expected, and it takes a left turn somewhere, some people might look back and say, well, clearly Narduzzi could only do it when he had a Heisman Trophy finalist and a Biletnikoff Award winner. Don't play that game. I'm not going to play that game. I don't think you should play that game. Narduzzi recruited those guys. Narduzzi and his staff developed those guys. The success counts. Pat Narduzzi said there's no defending the championship because they can't take the trophy away. They can't take the championship away. You're not defending anything. It's not like, how are you going to defend the ACC title? You're not going to defend the ACC title. You're going to go out and try and win another one. So, legacy talk, it's too far down the road for me. RJC, man, I apologize, but it's too far down the road for me. Now, I think one interesting conversation, we were having this conversation on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com, is about the floor. What's the floor for Pitt this season? We keep talking about our predictions. Are they going to win 9? Are they going to win 10? Some people will think they're going to win 11. John Morgan says they're going to go undefeated. What's the expectation, the floor? What's the floor for this team? And I really think that the floor for this team, and I think it's quarterback related, okay? If something happens to Kedon Slovis, if he's not as good as expected, or if he gets hurt or something like that, I still think this team wins 8 games minimum. And I think it's a reflection on the talent on the roster, and it's a reflection on the depth on the roster. I don't think it hurts that Frank Cignetti's going to push toward a more balanced offense. That could help you if you run into a situation where the quarterback gets hurt. But I think this roster is talented enough and deep enough to have 8 wins as a floor. Now, 8-4 is going to be a disappointing season if that's what they do. But I think that's the minimum. And quite frankly, that should be the minimum for this team going forward. And I think we talked about this in the last year or two, that this team should, when you look at sort of yearly expectations of what Pitt should accomplish on an annual basis, step number 1 is you don't win less than 8. You get 8 wins minimum, because you should build it in so that your non-conference schedule gives you a minimum of 3 wins. And when you get into the conference, unless you are in a really bad place, you should not go worse than 5-3 if you're Pitt. Now, schedule matrix is could change. You end up playing different amounts of games, but on this kind of a schedule setup, and I think they're even keeping it once they change the schedule setup, abandon the divisions. But on this kind of a setup with 8 conference games and 4 non-conference, you need to win three minimum in the non-conference based on who you schedule as that 4th Power 5 game. And then you need to go no worse than 5-3 in the conference. I think if you're Pitt, if you really want to establish yourself as a top half of the league team and potentially a top 5 or 6 in the league team, then you need to consistently win at least 5 games in the league. And so you should schedule it, as such that the non-conference produces at least 3 wins every year. And then you should be good enough and recruit well enough and develop well enough that you win at least 5 in the ACC. And that gives you 8. 8 is a baseline. Okay, and everything builds up from there. You go undefeated in the non-conference. Now you got to be looking at 9. But if you're good enough to go undefeated in the non-conference, then you realistically should be pushing for probably 6 wins in the ACC minimum, which means you're looking at 10. I think if you're Pitt annually, it starts at 8 and you build up from there. And the build up from 8 kind of follows where you are in the recruiting cycles. And it's college football. You're going to have those years where the talent dips a little bit just because the wrong guys graduate, or some of your best guys graduate and you might not have the depth ready to take over for those guys, or some of your best guys go to the NFL and you're not really prepared for that. It goes kind of off cycle of how you had mapped out the development of the team. Guys transfer, guys go to the NFL, guys graduate, whatever it is. What you need to do is always keep your head above 8 and then line it up that you can take advantage of and capitalize on those opportunities to go 9-3, 10-2, or above. We'll just say or above. And I think right now, Pitt is in one of those spots in the cycle where they should be able to take advantage of the situation and capitalize like they did last year. When they capitalized last year and won 11-3 and won the conference. You have that kind of year once every couple of years. And I mean, here they're unique. They have an opportunity to do it back-to-back. I think they have a realistic opportunity to at least be in a position for that in back-to-back years. We'll see if they can actually pull it off. But when we talk about the floor for the program, that's kind of where I see it and where I think it is for this year and where it needs to be and should be going forward. All right, let's get into more comments and questions. Paul Moore says, going to drink somewhere between 9 and 13 beers before kickoff. Can't wait for this game. Paul, best of luck to you. I hope you make it to halftime, buddy. Matt Durney says, let's move on to week 2 and start talking about a true big-time matchup with Tennessee. West Virginia is the equivalent of Georgia Tech. We certainly are not worried about Georgia Tech. Matt. Oh, Matt. Come on, man. It's the brawl. It is the brawl. Like, even if these players have no connection to the Backyard Brawl, and even if the players at West Virginia have no connection to the Backyard Brawl, and even if these coaches have no connection to the Backyard Brawl, the fans have the connection. The family of Pitt football and the family of West Virginia football has the connection. The cities of Pittsburgh and Morgantown have the connection. And these games will always matter. And these games will always bring out the best. And it doesn't matter that Pitt and West Virginia haven't played in 11 years. It doesn't matter that none of the guys on the current teams ever played against each other. It doesn't matter that these guys, were 10 or 11 or 9 years old the last time that Pitt and West Virginia played. It doesn't matter. Because if they don't get it by Thursday night, if the coaches just haven't gotten the message through of what this game means and what it counts for, and if Dave Wanstead doesn't give them a great speech to get them all fired up, if they don't get it, okay, they will get it when they walk out the tunnel. Because Acrisure Stadium is going to be wild. It's going to be an awesome energy. There's going to be a decent amount of West Virginia fans there. There's no question about it. And it's going to bring the kind of electricity that is undeniable. And look, we saw it 6 years ago when Pitt played Penn State for the first time in 15 years? It didn't take long. It didn't take long for those players to understand what they were dealing with and what they were walking into and what kind of rivalry that really was. And I don't think it's going to take long for the players to get it this week either. And even if they kind of understand it heading into Thursday night, I think when they walk onto the field, they're going to feel it. And they're going to really know what it is. And it's going to be exciting. It's going to be really exciting. It's going to be really awesome. And I'm looking forward to it. And I think the players are going to get it. To your point, Matt. So, I mean, Tennessee is a big time game. That's important. You worry about this game on Thursday night because of all those things I just talked about. Because of the rivalry, because of the energy, because of the excitement, because of the intensity and the passion. Those are situations where, the energy can benefit you, but it can also trip you up. And I think we've seen all sides of that. It's, games like this, momentum can be man, it can be momentum can be a real momentum swinger. Momentum can be a real game changer. It's really it's you have to account for it, and you have to be able to keep in control of the momentum, because once the momentum starts going in one team's favor, and I mean we saw this in 2007, you could feel it, and everybody in the stands could feel it, and the players on the field could feel it. Definitely by the time they got to halftime, holy cow, this is a game. This is a game, and Pitt's actually in control of this game. Pitt's playing better in this game. You could feel it. And once that starts happening, it gets hard, particularly if you're supposed to be the more talented team, it gets hard to take that momentum back. And so there's a lot that can affect the outcome of this game beyond just, well, Pitt's better than West Virginia, or West Virginia is better than Pitt, or talent this, or players that. I mean, ultimately, that's what's going to decide it, but there are other factors at play, Matt. I don't think you overlook this one. You can't overlook this one. You got to stay with it. All right, Super Chatters, got to get down here. Joe New says, did you attend the kickoff luncheon? What did LaShawn McCoy say? I was not there, so I apologize. Maybe someone else who was there can opt in or offer some insight on it. I missed it. Byron Fleck is a Super Chatter. I don't see your comment there, Byron. Looks like you pulled it down, but if you have something else, I'll keep an eye out for it. John Waffle H2P says, in my opinion, if we don't beat West Virginia by 2 touchdowns, it'll be disappointing. Yeah, so I mean, the thing I've said about this game, John Waffle, is, and I've said this all summer, and I've certainly said it through August, being the first game of the season, it's not hard to imagine it being a pretty sloppy game. You know what I mean? It's not hard to imagine both of these teams coming out and kind of feeling their way and not really being into the flow of the season yet. And, they're dealing with the atmosphere and the environment, and they're dealing with new quarterbacks and new play callers. And it's just, you see teams slow out of the gates. And that's probably the best way to put it. I think they'll be a little slow out of the gates. I think both sides will be a little slow out of the gates. I do think Pitt is better than West Virginia. I think Pitt is good enough or better enough than West Virginia to be able to win somewhat comfortably. You can define that however you want. A 2-touchdown win would look like it's comfortable, but if it was only 1 touchdown in the middle of the fourth quarter before you score another time to put it away, well, that's not necessarily a comfortable win because you were sweating it for a while. What I've said is I could see this game being like 27-13, which would be a 2-touchdown game. Or 30-13 or 24-11 or some 24-10 or something like that. I could see a result, like that you come out of it and you say, great, got a win, 1-0, got some things to clean up. I could see Pat, this being the kind of game where Pitt wins and Pat Narduzzi goes up to the podium at the end of the game and says, we got a lot of things to clean up. We got to get better, a lot better by week 2. We can't do this. We can't do that. We're not going to be able to get away with this. We're not going to be able to get away with that. I could definitely see that scenario. And so a 2-touchdown win, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what the final score ends up being, but I don't necessarily expect it to be the kind of game where it's super sharp and Pitt just kind of rolls up and down the field on them. I think both defenses will probably make some plays here. I think both defenses will have success at the line of scrimmage, even though they're going against, both teams are going against experienced offensive lines. I could see the defense having the upper hand. It's like they always say in training camp that, the defense always starts faster. Well, I think that could be the case starting a season too, starting the actual games. Let's see. Longo Calrissian says, number 1, Ryan Baer didn't make the 2 deep. Redshirt likely. Number 2, come on, you Panthers. Shout out to Pitt men's soccer. They kicked Brawl week off with style. Yeah, how about the Pitt men's soccer team, huh? Back-to-back wins over top 10 teams. They beat number 2 Georgetown, and then they shut out West Virginia, number 6 West Virginia, on whatever day that was, yesterday. Shut out number 6 West Virginia, 3-0. Now Pitt is a top 10 side themselves, but shout out Pitt soccer for sure, with two big wins, really, over Georgetown and West Virginia, and way to kick off the Brawl week, with a Backyard Brawl win of their own. Paul Moore says, is a super chatter, and we appreciate him. He says, West Virginia played 100% zone coverage last year. How has Pitt done historically against teams that play a lot of zone coverage? That's a good question. I don't have that kind of stat offhand. I'd have to look it up and kind of see what we could find out on that. I mean, obviously you're dealing with a whole new offense, a brand new offensive coordinator, brand new quarterback. So I don't know if precedent is entirely something you can turn to. But I would say this, and this kind of goes with some of my half concerns about how this season's going to start and how this team is going to play coming out of the gates, and even how they're going to be for the bulk of the season, how the offense is going to play. I have a lot of confidence in Frank Cignetti. I really do. The job he did in 2009 was one of the more impressive jobs I've seen by a Pitt offensive coordinator. I think I've covered the team since 2005. I think if you look at the best performances by an offensive coordinator, the numbers tell the story. 2016, I think 2021, 2016 being the Matt Canada year, 2021 last year with Whipple and Kenny Pickett, and then 2009 with Frank Cignetti, and not necessarily in that order. I think what Cignetti was able to do coming in, taking Bill Stahl, who was not very good in 2008, and really making him into a remarkably efficient and productive quarterback. What he was able to do identifying and maximizing the talents of guys like Jonathan Baldwin, Deion Lewis, and Doran Dickerson. How he walked into a good situation with returning starter at quarterback, even if it wasn't very good in the previous year, and all these experienced senior offensive linemen. I broke that down last week, I think, on one of the Morning Pit episodes when we previewed the line. The job, he walked into a good situation and I think really maximized it and made the most of it, really impressively. And I think that's what he's got an opportunity to do again this year. He's walking into a good situation where the personnel is well set, is really, well set up. It's a good personnel group for him to work with. It's an experienced quarterback. It's a bunch of returning senior starters on the offensive line, and it's a lot of good skill players. He's got a good setup, and I think he's a smart coordinator, and I think he's good at using his talent and attacking opposing offenses or defenses, and I think he's good at also getting efficient performances out of his quarterback, and that's not just a product of how the quarterback plays, but I think it's a product of how the coordinator schemes it. I think you can do things with the scheme and with the play calling and the play design to help a quarterback be more efficient. I think that's what he did in 2009 with Bill Stahl. I don't think Tino Sinceri was terrible in 2010. I don't think Tino Sinceri was the reason they struggled in 2010. I think that's what Cignetti does. I think he's really good at it. And that is part of what gives me confidence for this year. I think he's a good coordinator for what Pitt needs this year. I just realized I didn't read the other part or answer the other part of Longo Calrissian's question. He said, number one, Ryan Baer didn't make the two deep. Is the red shirt likely? So Ryan Baer, the freshman offensive lineman, turned a lot of heads, impressed a lot of people in training camp, is not on the two deep. I didn't expect him to be on the two deep. Honestly, I figured you'd have Carter Warren and Branson Taylor on the left side, and then some combination of Gabe Hoymack and Salves and Jason Collier on the right side. Baer was mostly working on the third team. Pat Narduzzi said a bunch of in camp, he was working mostly on the third team. Pat Narduzzi said a bunch of times that he expected Ryan Baer to play this year, that the freshman would get on the field. We'll see. We'll see. My guess, if I had to guess, he'll play, but play less than 4 games, and still take still end up taking a red shirt, but then be, if not a starter, then a top reserve next year. All right, let's scroll down here, get some more comments and questions. Let's see. Dan Green says, I'm calling a close one with lots of rust needing to be knocked off by both teams. I don't think it will be the most crisp game, but Pitt will win 26-17. Yeah, I could see it being a 2-score game, Dan. I think you're probably right about that. I could see it being a 2-score game. And, whether that's 9 points or 14 or 15, anywhere in there wouldn't be a surprise to me. Vincent Calfo, can these FCS defensive backs for West Virginia cover Pitt's wide receivers? That's a good question. I mean, we'll see, Vincent. I mean, that's another thing we're kind of all, I think, going to be watching very closely. Just what these new receivers for Pitt look like. Konate Mumfield and Bub Means in particular. They're going to play a lot. They're going to be relied on. What can they do? I mean, Konate Mumfield, we've all talked him up all offseason, and certainly the coaches and teammates and everyone everyone has hyped up Konate Mumfield. Well, it's going to be the time to show it, and you're going to go against another Power 5 team. And I mean, you want to call them FCS defensive backs, whatever you want to say, they're Power 5 players, and that's you're going to have to beat them, and we'll see what Bub Means can do. You're making a transition from Louisiana Tech to Pitt. We see what Jared Wayne does in a bigger role. We see what Jalen Barden does in a bigger role. We see what Jaden Bradley does in a bigger role. I've said it all summer that I'm bullish on these receivers, that I think they're going to be good. Now they're going to have to go out and show that they really can be. RJC Man 38 says West Virginia's going to load the box. Kedon Slovis is going to eat them up on wheel routes. That'll be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see right off the bat how West Virginia respects Pitt's run game. If they come out so it's going to be interesting to see if West Virginia comes out believing everything that they've read. Since Frank Signetti was hired, all we've heard from Pat Narduzzi, we've heard from Frank Signetti, we've heard from the players and the other coaches is that they're going to run the ball more. That they're going to be a run-heavy offense or a run-focused offense. They're going to have more balance in the offense and all these things. And I'm curious, if West Virginia comes out with like 8 guys in the box or 9 guys in the box on the first play from scrimmage, does that mean that their coaches just read the clippings all summer? And then will they end up being right? Look, I think you can look at Frank Signetti's history and find plenty of evidence that, yes, he does like to throw the ball. I mean, yes, he is he does like to run the ball. He does like that kind of balance, a run-first attack, run to set up the pass and play action and everything. I don't think there's any question about that. But, I mean, he also is not exclusively run. He's not ground and pound. He's not going to go 3 yards in a cloud of dust every time and bang his head into a wall if that's what the defense is taking away. What'll be interesting to see is if West Virginia decides to come out and try and take it away right off the bat. Or if they say, well, we know all the comments you've been making, and we know what Frank's history is, but we also know you've got a pretty good quarterback and we respect your receivers. So why don't you prove that you can actually run the ball before we commit to stop or overcommit to stopping it? It's going to be interesting to see what West Virginia thinks of Pitt right off the bat and what West Virginia's expectations are for Pitt's offense right off the bat and how they kind of go about trying to stop the Panthers. Let's see here. Brock McDonagh says, cheers to the 2022 football season. Non-football question that I'm hoping you have some intel on. With Cassius McNeely not enrolling at Pitt, does Pitt plan on using his spot to add another player for this season? So Cassius McNeely, a junior college guard who was going to join the team this year, he's not going to enroll. He's got some personal things that he's got to tend to that are going to keep him from enrolling at Pitt. It's unfortunate, certainly from a basketball perspective, but primarily for the young man. You hope that he's able to take care of the things he needs to take care of and get some, just can, like I say, take care of the thing. I mean, it's personal issues, it's family-related issues, and you hope that he can take care of his family as he needs to, which is why he's not enrolling at Pitt. I don't think Pitt's going to go out and try and find another transfer or anything like that. I don't think they're going to go out and try and get another junior college player or someone else to add to the roster that way. My guess is if that scholarship gets used, it'll eventually go to like a walk-on Aiden Fish or somebody like that will get that scholarship is what my guess is. But Jeff Capel hasn't told me. It's disappointing to lose McNeely. You just hope he's able to take care of what he needs to take care of. Let's see here. Nathan Falchetti says, do you know what conference the referees will be from? Any history with said conferences, refs calling games a certain way? Yeah, I believe it is the Big 12. Typically, you have that. Big 12. Let me see. Typically, you have like the visiting conference sends the officials. I'm going to see if the game notes mention it. I'm fairly confident that's what it is. I don't know if they mention it in here or not. Typically, you do have the visiting teams. You have officials from the visiting teams conference. I think is historically what tends to happen. I don't see anything in the game notes, but that would be my expectation. Big 12 officials. I have no idea if there's any history with those officials one way or the other. Reedworth, would you be surprised if Gavin Bartholomew or Daniel Carter have multiple touchdowns on Thursday? I wouldn't be surprised if Carter has a coming out year like George Aston did in 2016. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Daniel Carter. For a guy that we talked about so much this offseason, he was named the most improved player of the spring on offense, for Pete's sake. For this guy that we talked about so much this offseason, and he doesn't even get listed on the depth chart. I thought they might set him up at like a fullback designation or something. My only thought is perhaps they're trying to play games with West Virginia. They don't want West Virginia to know that they might use a fullback, even though West Virginia, again, probably saw that Daniel Carter was the most improved player of the spring. Probably has watched tape of Frank Signetti's previous years calling offense. I mean, that's Pat Narduzzi said they've done that with Graham Harrell, calling West Virginia's offense. So they went back and watched games that he has called before. And so I'm sure that West Virginia staff has went back and watched Frank Signetti tape from previous years. And Signetti has always used a fullback. I mean, a fullback is part of his offense, so I don't think there's any surprises to be had there. Will they score multiple touchdowns on Thursday, Carter or Gavin Bartholomew? Probably not. Partially because I don't expect it to be super high scoring, partially because I think there's going to be a lot of emphasis on the run, and partially just because I think there's a lot of guys who could score touchdowns on this team. Izzy Abanacanda and Rodney Hammond, Konate Mumfield, Jared Wayne, Jalen Barton, Bub Means. We'll find out about Sibo Flemister. Vincent Davis is still part of this group. I mean, there's a lot of guys to get the ball to, and Gavin Bartholomew is going to get the ball quite a bit. Daniel Carter will probably get his touches. Multiple touchdowns probably depends on the situation. If they get a bunch of, first and goal from the 1, first and goal from the 2, yeah, I bet Daniel Carter gets the call there. Although I would probably still give it to Izzy Abanacanda because I just think he's that good. But Daniel Carter probably gets the call there. So if that situation comes out, then maybe Carter's going to have an opportunity for 2 touchdowns if they get first and goal from the 3 a bunch of times. Nick Presto says, I know how high you have been on Izzy Abanacanda since his arrival. I felt the same way. I really think he's going to finally break out this year. I think so too. I mean, you're right. I mean, I've been high on him since he came in as a freshman. I think he was clearly their best running back last year, and I expect him to be their number 1 lead back this year. I mean, as long as he stays healthy and stays on the field, I think he's going to be the bell cow. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He's going to be the man. And I don't think it was an accident that they listed him as the lone starter at running back. There was no Izzy Abanacanda or Rodney Hammond or Vincent Davis or Sibo Flemister like they did last year with 3 or 4 guys listed as co-starters. There was none of that. It was Izzy Abanacanda. And then it was Rodney Hammond. And then it was Vincent Davis or Sibo Flemister. Those are your top 2 guys, Abanacanda and Hammond. And those guys, I think, are going to get the bulk of the work. There's Izzy on the screen right there. He's an NFL player. I mean, I think he's an NFL caliber back. He's got the size, the speed, the hands. He's going to be really, really good. And I think if you give him 20 touches a game, he's going to easily clear 1,000 yards. I think he's that good. And I think he's going to make some big plays this year. Somebody said to me earlier today, I want to see, this is what was said to me, I want to see pitch running backs just break a big one. How long has it been since a Pitt running back broke a big run? And I didn't go back and look at it, but like a long touchdown run, you're right. It feels like it's been a long time. I think Izzy could be the guy who does it. His super chatter jumped in here. Let's see who this is. John Waffle H2P says, I honestly think Neil Brown is way over his head. West Virginia's offense is non-existent. Well, we'll see. We'll find out. I don't know. I don't know what to expect from them. And there's always that challenge in the first game. You never know what you're going to get, but we'll find out. Bill Florian. Hope I got your name right there, Bill. I apologize if I didn't. Bill F. says, how good is JT Daniels? My fear is that he has a great game and we can't keep up, or am I being crazy? Yeah, I don't know. I don't have high expectations for JT Daniels because he's flamed out, right? I mean, he hasn't been able to stick. He hasn't been able to succeed at the places he's been before. And you know, maybe injuries have been a part of it, maybe this, maybe that, but it hasn't happened for him yet. Now, maybe this is the place where he goes and it happens and it all comes together and he has a great season. But, you know, that's one of those things where until you see it happen, it's hard to count on it. You know what I mean? Like, you could say, like with Kedon Slovis, you've seen it. He's had the success. JT Daniels has not. You know, I mean, there's a lot more evidence of Kedon Slovis out there than there is of JT Daniels. So, you know, it's hard for me to, I don't know what to expect from JT Daniels, but I don't see him having a great game and Pitt can't keep up. Matt P says, if Pitt starts 2-0, there's no excuse to not start 6-0 and head into the bye week right in the thick of playoff discussion, probably ranked in the top 8. Yeah, so you start out 17. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. You start out 17 in the AP poll. If you win those first 2 games, I don't think you're any, you know, if you beat West Virginia and Tennessee, you're no worse than like 12. I really think you're in the top 12 or top 13. And then it just becomes a matter of continuing to win. And the more you win, the better, you know, as long as you keep winning, you're going to have a chance to move up because other teams are going to lose here and there. You know, if you can get 2-0, and then, I mean, like, you got to get out of the month of September. You have to win your non-conference games. You got to win at Western Michigan. You have to win against Rhode Island. But then you dive into the conference, and I think you knock out those first couple wins, and you're 6-0 in mid-October. Yeah, I don't see a reason why you can't be top 10 at that point, you know, or top 8, like Matt says. And then you are getting talked about as, you know, people are talking about your resume, about, you know, are you going to be one of the teams that makes the cut when the when the playoff committee comes out with their first rankings and all this stuff. I mean, you're in that conversation. Then you got to keep winning. Pitman Zach 94 says, bold prediction, Brandon Hill has 2 key interceptions, 1 a pick 6, and 2 the game clincher. Pitt wins 31-27. Not a bad prediction, Pitman Zach 94. I think when you said Brandon Hill, you meant Bengali Kamara, but that's okay. We'll split hairs on that one. Their first names both start with the letter B. I don't think it'll be a 4-point game, but we'll see. We'll see where it ends up. But I like your prediction, though. Byron Fleck. Oh, there you are, Byron. You were a super chatter earlier. We appreciate you. Says 2 things. 1, is it possible Pitt's offensive line is overrated? Last year, Pickett was running for his life. Can Slovis handle that? 2, the guess is that West Virginia has to pass the ball 50-plus times to have a chance. Thoughts? So, there were times when pressure got to Kenny Pickett. There were times where he had to scramble. No question. Was he running for his life? I mean, like, to the extent and as consistently enough that we would say that like, we would say last year Pickett was running for his life. Was he? Because I seem to remember a lot of times where he just dropped back and was calm and cool and collected in the pocket. And some of that I thought was a big change in Kenny Pickett. I thought that was one of his biggest problems in 2020 and 2019 is he wasn't all that comfortable in the pocket. That he would drop back and he would get happy feet, or he would feel the pocket collapsing even though it really wasn't. He just wasn't comfortable. And I thought that was a big change last year. He looked more mature. He looked more comfortable. He looked like he knew what was going on. So he dropped back and was calm in the pocket, which is so important. But was he calm in the pocket because he grew and matured, or was he calm in the pocket because the O-line was giving him time and giving him protection? I think the O-line played pretty well last year. I think Pitt was one of the better teams in the country at not giving up sacks. And I think it's really hard for a quarterback to have the kind of success that Kenny Pickett did if he was quote-unquote running for his life. So, Byron, I don't think I can really agree with you on that. Can Kedon Slovis handle it? I mean, I think the offensive line is only going to be better this year. I think all those guys are a year older, a year more experienced, and I think they'll be even better than they were a year ago. And then Byron's second question, he says his guess is that West Virginia has to pass the ball 50-plus times to have a chance. Yeah, probably. I mean, I guess. I think that I think West Virginia's going to have a hard time running on Pitt just because Pitt's defense is so good at stopping the run, and so that only leaves you one option, which is to throw a lot. And if when Pitt's defense is able to effectively stop the run, it just becomes really challenging for the opponent because now those defensive linemen are teeing off. You know what I mean? They are just getting straight after the quarterback, and they know that the opponent has to pass because they can't run. And so that's a really difficult situation for the offense, but it's like your only option is throwing a lot. Scroll in here. Dave Yark says the running game will be so much better this year. Kedon Slovis won't have to be great, just pretty good. Well, so here's what I think, and I see your point, Dave, of what you're getting at. I think if the running game is effective, if the running game is good, then it gives Kedon Slovis more opportunity to be great, particularly off of play action. But also what Byron was asking about, was there a lot of pass rush on Kenny Pickett? Well, pass rush has to slow off. Pass rush has to pull back a little bit if they're afraid of the run. So if you run well, you create better opportunities for your quarterback, in addition to time of possession and ball control and just generally wearing down the defense. Getting an effective running game, not necessarily making it the focus of your offense, but getting an effective running game, building an effective running game can be, obviously can be greatly to the benefit of the quarterback, for sure. John Christofich says the only way that Pitt only wins 8 games is if Kedon Slovis gets injured. Yeah, I think, you guys have heard me say this a million times, right? The difference between going back to Charlotte or back to 8 wins is the quarterback. And whether that's, quarterback health or quarterback effectiveness. And if the quarterback gets hurt or the quarterback doesn't play well, then they have a chance of slipping back to 8 wins. If the quarterback stays healthy, the quarterback plays well, they have a great chance to go back to Charlotte. It's really that easy. RJCman38 says, playing 2 Power 5 games to start the season, does that get Pitt a bump from the media pundits if Pitt starts 2-0? Conversely, if they go 1-1, are they still ranked? I think they would still be ranked. I mean, unless they look horrible. So take the West Virginia game, right? If they win, I think they move up a couple spots. If they lose bad, there's a chance they drop out. If they lose not terrible, then they probably just drop down into the 20s. Now, your 1-1 scenario would mean then that they beat Tennessee, in which case they're not dropping out. They'll, probably climb back up into the top 20. I do think they'll get a bump if they open the season with a pair of wins over Power 5 non-conference opponents. I think that is, voters like that. No matter what the voters think of West Virginia, no matter what the voters think of Tennessee, if you come out and beat those 2 teams to open the season, and no matter about the fact that you're playing at home, you come back out, or if you come out and do that to open the season, I think you're going to get a boost for sure. Pitman Zach 94 says, I really think Barden is going to be the difference maker on offense. I think he's going to be sneakily good. I'm definitely looking forward to Jalen Barden having a big year this year. I'm a big fan of his. I've been a big fan of his since he came in as a recruit. I thought they got a great recruiting class that year with Jordan Addison and Jalen Barden. And I think Barden has shown just those little flashes here and there of how good he can be and the kinds of things he can do. And I think he's poised for a real big season. I don't know if he's going to be the leading receiver, but I wouldn't be surprised if he scores a bunch of touchdowns. I think because he's got that kind of big play ability with his speed. Brock Madonic says, are you buying that there will be more fans in the stadium on Thursday rooting for West Virginia? That was a poll on ESPN today on their college football show. 75% West Virginia, 25% Pitt. Brock, you are a regular listener to this show, and I appreciate you more than I can say. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like anybody on ESPN who said or advocated or even showed a poll that thought that the crowd will be 75% West Virginia and 25% Pitt, I mean, should be fired. Or at least should not be on TV. Should not be in a position to share any of the few thoughts that actually exist in their brains with the general public. The rest of the public does not need to hear stupidity like this. And I'm not talking about you, Brock. I'm talking about whoever it was that actually, I saw somebody else mention this. And so if I'm ranting about something that's being inaccurately portrayed, I apologize. But if it really was that ESPN showed a poll that said 75% West Virginia, 25% Pitt, that was the expectation at Acrisure Stadium. If ESPN actually showed that, ESPN should be taken off the air and probably written up on an FCC violation for publishing and reporting blatant falsehoods. Complete inaccuracies based in nothing but nonsense. They should change their name to the Cartoon Network. They say people are going away from ESPN for being too woke. Well, that's stupid. They're going away from ESPN for garbage like that. It's not going to be 75% West Virginia, 25% Pitt. And again, Brock, I don't fault you for asking the question, but seriously, anyone on ESPN who opined on that or advocated for that or said anything other than this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, they really should be taken off the air because the thoughts in their brain, what few thoughts exist, are just not fit for human consumption. Dumbest thing I've ever heard. Oh, here, the Panther Room follows up, says ESPN reported today that 75% of the tickets sold for the Backyard Brawl were sold to West Virginia fans. Only 25% attendance will be... Okay, I think you are mistaken. I think I saw that there was a poll or something. I don't think they actually reported tickets sold like that. Because that would be even dumber than everything I just said. OOF McGee says, any other new face masks or logos Pitt will wear this year? I noticed that this helmet they're going to wear on Thursday was, I guess it has some chrome. Chrome in the face mask, chrome in the logo. I don't know if they have any other things. I'm just glad they're sticking with the yellow helmets, the blue shirts, and the yellow pants. I'm glad they're sticking with a basic, recognizable combination. You don't need to do anything crazy or silly for this game. Just do it right. Stick to it. Let's see here. Pitman Zach 94 says, I would love to see a sloppy old school smash mouth game where Izzy Abanacanda has 150 plus rushing yards and the other running backs add another 120 to 150 rushing yards and beat West Virginia 14-3. I mean, if Pitt ends up with 300 rushing yards out of the running backs, they better score more than 2 touchdowns. I'll tell you that. Let's see. RJ Seaman 38 says perfect football weather on Thursday night. Let's see. So the weather won't be a factor with cramps or ball security. Let's check the weather as of right now. The weather in Pittsburgh for Thursday, a high of 80, a low of 59. That sounds beautiful. Perfect weather. Richard Wendell says Dave Wanstead better be showered with 13-9 chance as the honorary captain. Yeah, I talked about this on the Morning Pit earlier today about Pat Narduzzi announcing that Dave Wanstead will be honorary captain. I love that pick. I think it's great. I really do. I think Narduzzi got exactly the right guy. I'm glad Wanstead was able to do it. I'm glad Wanstead agreed to it. I think you needed somebody with a connection to the history of Pitt, the history of the Backyard Brawl, and someone who's sort of instantly recognizable as being Pitt. You know, and I think around here, maybe more than anyone else, Dave Wanstead is instantly recognizable as Pitt. He is Pitt. You look at that guy, I think, around here, and you think that's former Pitt coach Dave Wanstead, former Pitt player Dave Wanstead. Even before you think that's former Bears head coach or former Dolphins head coach or former this or former that. It's perfect, and he's obviously got a long history in the in the Backyard Brawl, both as a player and as assistant coach, and and as a head coach when he recorded one of the biggest wins in Pitt history. So I think it's it's just perfect. And when he walks out on that, when he walks out there for the coin toss, people are going to go nuts. I don't think there's any question about it. I think there's going to be a lot of moments where people go crazy in this game. First touchdown, the first time they show Kenny Pickett on the Jumbotron, and certainly when they show Dave Wanstead. And there probably will be, I'm sure there'll be highlights from the 2007 game, the 13-9 game, but it's going to be wild, and I think people are going to give it up for Wanstead. They're going to get excited. All right, let's see here. Try and jump through, see what else we got to get to. Will Z says, hey, Chris, general question. If you're Coach Cignetti, how do you attack West Virginia? Test the secondary with quick routes, play action with a majority run, stack Izzy and Carter in the backfield, and keep them guessing? If I came out... what would I do on the first series? I'd probably run like a counter run or something on the first play. Hope to get like 4 yards, and then I would throw. I'd probably try and throw to Gavin Bartholomew on second down. And if I get if I didn't convert, if I didn't get a first down, then on third down I'd probably look for Mumfield. But if the second down pass to Bartholomew gets me a first down, then I'm probably going to, on my new set of downs, I'll probably be around the 35 or so. I'll probably hand it off again. I do want to come out and establish the run. If I'm Frank Cignetti, if I'm Pat Narduzzi, if I'm this offense, I want to come out and establish the run. Not overdoing it, but not running away from it too quick. If I come out on my second first down and get stuffed on first down with a handoff, I'll probably turn to the pass. But I do want to try to get that established. Now, I have me personally, and probably Cignetti as well, I have enough confidence in the offensive line. I have enough confidence in the running backs, particularly Abanacanda, that I think I could, I think I'll be able to get something out of the running game. But I'm looking early on to show West Virginia that we're committed to trying to run. If I'm Frank Cignetti, that's what I'm thinking. I want to show them that I'm committed to trying to run. I'm committed to establishing the run. And then once I've got that sort of set, if I pick up a couple first downs, get into West Virginia territory, I'm taking a shot. You know what I mean? If I can run the ball, if I'm Frank Cignetti and I can run the ball across midfield and get, inside the 40, and I have a fresh set of downs at like the 37, you better believe I'm dialing up play action and I'm shooting for the end zone. Send Jalen Barden down there, send Kanate Mumfield down there. I'm firing it out. I'm going for it. That's what I'm doing. But we'll find out Thursday night. What time is it now? It's 9:30, so we're what? 2.5, we're about 40, what's the math here? 2.5 hours in, 45.5 hours away from kickoff, a little under 45.5 hours away from kickoff. I don't. It's never going to get here, but we'll do our best to keep the content flowing for you. Listen, you got to check into the Morning Pit tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning. We got a special guest. This is going to be awesome. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. We got a special guest on the Morning Pit. Can't wait for you guys to check that out. So tune in for that. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. It's right down there. You can click the subscribe button. Make sure you like this video. All those things help us out a lot. We really appreciate everybody who's a super chatter tonight. I understand if you can't do it or you don't want to do it, but you can always hit that like button. It doesn't cost you anything to click like. It doesn't cost you anything to click subscribe. So do that. That would be huge. It's a big help to us. We really appreciate it. Don't forget, we're going to go live after the game on Thursday night. And it's going to be like, not just after the game, but after I get home from the game. So, like, it's going to be like 1:30 in the morning. I can't wait. I'm so excited to do this. I might be like falling asleep as I sit here. There might be just a bunch of drunken weirdos up in the chat, yelling obscenities at each other. I don't know what it's going to be, but we're going to do it. We're going to have a post-game show starting real late at night, talking about the game and everything, whatever we're thinking about. And it's either going to be really good or really bad, and probably a little bit of both is my guess. But I can't wait. We are closing in on the start of the season. We're closing in on the return of the Backyard Brawl. It's everything's been building up to this. Everything's been leading up to this. So we're counting it down. Listen, we'll have a new morning pit every day this week. Well, the Friday morning pit's going to be taped at like 1:30 in the morning. It's just going to be the live show released as the morning pit. But tomorrow and Thursday, we'll have new episodes of the morning pit released first thing in the morning right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you tune in for that. And like I say, subscribe. You won't miss it. Where's the button? There it is. And then also click that like button. That's big. Make sure you stay tuned to Panther-Lair.com as well. We got tons of coverage and content there at Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. And, of course, message boards where you can interact with hundreds and thousands of your closest Pitt fan friends. John Waffle H2P, final super chatter, says, I hope the band spells out 13-9. We'll see what they do, man. We'll see. We'll have plenty to talk about. All right. Everybody have a good rest of the night. Try to make it through. Try to get something done productive between now and Thursday night. I know we're all looking forward to the game, but just do your best. Can't wait. We will talk to you after the game on Thursday. Enjoy it. Have a good couple of days. And enjoy the game. We'll talk to you late Thursday, early Friday morning, right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.